The classroom was silent except for the scratching of pencils, the ticking of the clock, and the muffled cough of someone in the back row. But in the middle of that stillness sat Taro Ishikawa, a thin 15-year-old boy with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Unlike the other students who were rushing through their papers, he had paused, his brow furrowed, staring at a single line in the assignment as if it were whispering a secret only he could hear. His classmates thought he was strange, quiet, too observant, the kind of boy who carried a notebook everywhere and wrote down things no one else cared about. But in this moment, his unusual habit placed him at a crossroads. Because what he saw, or thought he saw, was not just a mistake. It was something hidden, something deliberate. And if he was right, the secret tucked into those words could destroy someone's life. But if he was wrong, he would look like a fool, a boy meddling in things far beyond him. Should he speak up, risking mockery and punishment? Should he stay silent, knowing he might watch disaster unfold? And what if the truth was bigger than he ever imagined? The sunlight streamed through the high windows of the classroom, golden beams cutting across dust particles that floated lazily in the air. Outside, cherry blossoms swayed in the April breeze, their petals scattering across the school courtyard like fragile pieces of pink snow. Spring in Tokyo always carried a sense of renewal, but inside this room, there was only tension. Exams were everything here, the future of every student balanced on their performance. Teachers said it. Parents repeated it. Students lived it. But Taro Ishikawa had never cared much for exams. He was not lazy, his notebooks were filled with careful notes and curious observations, but he had always believed that life was more than numbers and ranks. His father, who worked as a low-paid clerk in a law office, had once told him, "People fail not because they are weak, Taro, but because they ignore the details. Always look for the hidden things." Those words had stuck in his heart, guiding his quiet, watchful nature. And today, as he stared at the printed exam sheet in front of him, he noticed something the others didn't. A passage at the bottom, small print written in formal Japanese, like a legal clause. Why would there be such a thing in a school exam? His classmates were busy writing essays about history, not even glancing at the odd paragraph. But Taro's instincts screamed that it mattered. The words were complicated, but he recognized legal phrasing, clauses, conditions, disclaimers. His father sometimes brought home contracts from work, and Taro, out of curiosity, had read them. This text on the exam paper wasn't ordinary. It spoke about ownership, rights, and obligations. It was so strange that he forgot about the time ticking away and copied it quickly into his notebook before the bell rang. When the exam ended, students groaned, stretched, and rushed to gossip in the hallway. But Taro lingered behind, eyes locked on his notes. He knew his teacher, Mr. Harada, a strict man with little patience, would scold him for staying. Still, he couldn't let go of the mystery. "Is something wrong, Ishikawa?" Mr. Harada's voice was sharp, his glasses glinting. Taro hesitated. "Sensei, why is there legal text at the bottom of the exam paper?" The room went strangely quiet. Mr. Harada froze for a second, then frowned. "What are you talking about? Stop imagining things. Go home." But Taro knew the teacher's reaction was too quick, too defensive. His heart raced. Why deny it so strongly? That night, Taro showed the copied text to his father, who sat at the dinner table in their cramped apartment. His father read it carefully, his face growing pale. This is no mistake," his father whispered. "Taro, do you understand what this says? It's a legal clause, one that transfers decision-making rights to a corporation." Taro's chopsticks clattered to the floor. "But why would it be in a school exam?" His father shook his head. "I don't know. But whoever inserted this is testing something. Maybe hiding something." Days passed, but the mystery gnawed at Taro. He couldn't sleep. His father had taken the copied text to a trusted lawyer, and the reply was chilling. This clause matched language often used in corporate takeover contracts. Someone was experimenting with hiding legal traps in ordinary documents. If unnoticed, such a clause could make even a wealthy man sign away his fortune without realizing it. Then, one afternoon, fate intervened. Taro was running an errand near the Marinucci financial district when he stumbled into the lobby of a skyscraper to escape sudden rain. The building belonged to Yamato Holdings, one of the largest Japanese conglomerates. And there, surrounded by bodyguards and assistants, walked Kenji Yamato, the billionaire CEO himself. Everyone whispered about him: ruthless, brilliant, untouchable. Yet when Taro's eyes fell on the folder in the assistant's hand, his breath caught. On the cover was a document with formatting identical to the exam clause. Same font, same structure. It couldn't be a coincidence. Taro's heart pounded as he remembered his father's words: people fail because they ignore the details. He realized, with a sudden chill, that Yamato might be about to sign something dangerous, something hidden just like the exam clause. But what could a 15-year-old boy possibly do in the presence of a billionaire and his security guards? The rain drummed against the tall glass windows as Taro stood frozen, torn between fear and courage. His legs wanted to run, but his conscience screamed to act. He had seconds before Yamato disappeared into the private elevator. Summoning every ounce of courage, Taro shouted, his voice cracking, "Sir! Don't sign that paper, it has a hidden clause." The entire lobby froze. Heads turned. Security guards lunged forward, grabbing Taro by the arms. People gasped, whispering about the reckless boy who dared to interrupt a titan of industry. Kenji Yamato stopped. Slowly, he turned his cold, calculating eyes toward the trembling boy. For a moment, silence hung heavy, broken only by the rain outside. "What did you say?" Yamato asked, his voice low and dangerous. Taro's knees shook, but he forced the words out. There's a hidden clause in that contract. I've seen it before. It will take everything from you if you sign." Gasps rippled through the crowd. The billionaire's expression hardened, unreadable. Then he gestured to his assistant. "Bring me the contract." The assistant hesitated, panicked, but obeyed. Yamato flipped through the pages, his sharp eyes scanning the fine print. For a heartbeat, he looked unconcerned. Then his face darkened. He snapped the folder shut, veins bulging on his temple. "You," he whispered to his assistant. "Who drafted this?" The assistant stammered, "Yes, sir, it came directly from the—" "Enough!" Yamato thundered, slamming the folder onto the marble floor. The sound echoed like a gunshot. The guards released Taro in confusion. The billionaire looked at the boy again, this time with something new in his eyes, not anger, but respect mixed with unease. "You saw what my lawyers didn't." "Who are you?" Taro swallowed hard. "I'm just a student. But I pay attention to details." For the first time in years, Kenji Yamato smiled, not a warm smile, but a dangerous one, like a general discovering a hidden weapon. "Interesting. Very interesting." That night, the city of Tokyo glittered with neon lights, but in the Yamato skyscraper, the atmosphere was stormy. Behind closed doors, Kenji Yamato interrogated his executives. Someone inside his empire had tried to betray him, using a clause so well hidden that even his top lawyers had missed it. Yet a 15-year-old boy had spotted it. Taro lay awake in his tiny bedroom, replaying the day in his mind. Had he done the right thing? Or had he just entangled himself in something far bigger than he could handle? His phone buzzed with an unknown number. Hesitantly, he answered. A deep voice spoke, "Taro Ishikawa. This is Kenji Yamato. I want to meet you tomorrow. Alone." Taro's heart stopped. The richest, most powerful man in Japan was calling him directly. But why? Gratitude or something more dangerous? As the line went dead, the boy realized his life would never be the same. The phone call echoed in Taro's head long after it ended. The deep, commanding voice of Kenji Yamato seemed to linger in the quiet of his small bedroom. Outside, Tokyo glowed with restless neon lights, trains rattled through the night, and the laughter of strangers carried up from the streets below. But inside, 15-year-old Taro sat frozen, clutching his phone like it was a bomb. Kenji Yamato had summoned him. Alone. The richest man in Japan, the man whose name was whispered in business schools and feared in boardrooms, wanted to meet a poor boy from a crumbling apartment block. Gratitude? Maybe. But Taro's instincts whispered something colder. Men like Yamato didn't invite strangers without reason. And once you stepped into their world, there was no way back. All night, Taro tossed and turned. His father noticed the dark circles under his eyes the next morning at breakfast. "You didn't sleep," his father said gently, sipping tea. Taro hesitated, then confessed. "He called me. Kenji Yamato. He wants to meet me today, alone." The chopsticks in his father's hand trembled. "Taro, you must be careful. Men like him, they use people. They are grateful one day, and ruthless the next." "I know," Taro whispered. "But if I don't go, won't it be worse?" "He's not a man you ignore." His father sighed heavily. "Then go. But remember what I always told you, pay attention to the details. They can save your life." That afternoon, a black luxury car appeared outside Taro's school. Students gathered at the gate, gasping and whispering as the polished vehicle gleamed under the sunlight. The chauffeur stepped out, his suit immaculate, his expression unreadable. "Ishikawa Taro?" he asked. Taro nodded nervously. The door opened, and he slipped inside. The leather seats smelled rich, the city outside blurred as they sped away. He sat stiff, hands on his knees, his heart pounding with every passing streetlight. Finally, the car pulled up in front of the Yamato Holdings skyscraper, a glass tower that seemed to pierce the clouds. Inside the lobby, employees bowed deeply as he was escorted through golden corridors, past walls lined with art worth more than his family could ever dream of owning. And then, he was inside Kenji Yamato's private office. It was vast, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Tokyo Bay. The billionaire stood there, hands clasped behind his back, staring at the glittering skyline as if it belonged to him. He was tall, broad-shouldered, his silver hair perfectly combed, his tailored suit flawless. Without turning, Yamato spoke. "You came." "Yes, sir," Taro said softly, his voice almost lost in the echo of the room. Yamato turned slowly, his eyes sharp as blades. "You saved me from a trap. Do you understand what you did?" Taro swallowed. A little." My father explained. "Someone hid a clause in your contract. If you signed, you would have lost everything." The billionaire's lips curved into a thin smile. "Everything?" "Not quite. But billions, yes. Control of my empire. And worse, it would have been public humiliation. My enemies would have called me careless. Weak. That cannot happen." His eyes narrowed. "Tell me, Taro. How did you see what my lawyers missed?" Taro hesitated. I noticed it in my exam paper. It was the same wording. I copied it. When I saw your contract, it looked identical. I just pay attention to details." Yamato studied him for a long moment. "Details," he repeated softly. "Yes. That is a rare gift." The billionaire gestured to a chair. "Sit." Taro obeyed, his legs stiff with tension. Yamato poured 2 cups of tea from a porcelain pot that looked centuries old. He handed one to Taro with his own hands, a gesture that shocked the boy. "Do you know what it means to run an empire like mine?" Yamato asked. His voice was calm, but heavy, like thunder before a storm. "It means trust is a lie. Every smile hides a blade. My board, my advisors, even my lawyers, many would sell me if the price was high enough. But you, a boy, you saw what they ignored. That makes you dangerous. And valuable." Taro's throat went dry. "Sir, I didn't mean." Yamato raised a hand, silencing him. "I am not angry. I am intrigued." He leaned forward, his eyes burning with intensity. "I want you to help me, Taro. Look at documents. Find what others cannot. Be my eyes where mine cannot reach." The boy's hands trembled. "Me? But I'm just a student." "Exactly," Yamato said coldly. "No one suspects a child. You will be invisible. And in this world, invisibility is power." For a moment, Taro's mind swirled. He thought of his father's warnings, of the simple life they lived, of how dangerous this path could be. But he also thought of the people who had mocked him for being strange, of the poverty that chained his family, of the rare chance now placed before him. Finally, he whispered, "What if I say no?" Kenji Yamato's smile faded. He leaned back in his chair, his face unreadable. "Then you go back to your life. Poor, unnoticed. But understand, those who almost betray me will learn of you. And they will not forgive the boy who ruined their plan." Taro's blood turned cold. It wasn't a threat spoken aloud, but the meaning was clear. Saying no could be just as dangerous as saying yes. He clenched his fists under the table. "Then I'll help." For the first time, Yamato's smile was genuine. "Good. Then you are mine now." The weeks that followed changed Taro's life forever. He was discreetly given access to documents, contracts, proposals, reports. Yamato's assistants were told simply, "The boy is under my protection." No one dared question further. Taro spent nights at his cramped desk, eyes straining as he searched for hidden traps in lines of text. Again and again, he spotted details the lawyers overlooked, a word misplaced here, a phrase buried there, clauses designed to bleed Yamato's empire slowly. Each time, Yamato grew more impressed. "You see, like a hawk," he told Taro one evening, handing him an expensive pen as a gift. "You will go far." But not everyone was pleased. The board of directors whispered about the strange boy suddenly favored by their leader. Some saw him as a threat. Others saw him as a pawn they might turn. Taro could feel their eyes on him whenever he entered the towering building, calculating, measuring. And then came the night of the gala. It was Yamato Holdings' annual celebration, hosted in a glittering hotel ballroom filled with Japan's most powerful politicians, businessmen, and celebrities. Chandeliers blazed above, violins played softly, and waiters carried trays of champagne. Taro felt painfully out of place in his borrowed suit, standing in the corner while adults laughed and traded secrets. But Yamato had insisted he come. "You must learn to see not only documents, but people," he had said. Halfway through the evening, Yamato was called away for a private discussion, leaving Taro momentarily alone. That's when a tall man in a gray suit approached. His smile was polished, but his eyes were cold. "You're Taro Ishikawa, aren't you?" the man asked smoothly. Taro nodded cautiously. "I hear you've been very helpful to Mr. Yamato. Spotting things others missed. Quite a talent for someone so young." He leaned closer, lowering his voice. "But talents like yours, they could serve other masters too. Masters who pay far more than gratitude." Taro stiffened. "Who are you?" The man's smile widened. "Let's just say I represent people who believe Yamato's time is ending. Help us, and you will be rich beyond your dreams. Stay with him, and you will share his downfall." Before Taro could respond, Yamato returned, his piercing eyes locking onto the man. The smile vanished from the stranger's face. He bowed quickly, murmured an excuse, and slipped away into the crowd. Yamato's jaw tightened. "What did he say to you?" Taro hesitated, then told him everything. The billionaire's expression darkened like a storm. "So, they have already noticed you. Good. Let them fear. But remember this, Taro, if you betray me, there will be nowhere in this world to hide." That night, as fireworks exploded over Tokyo Bay to celebrate the company's success, Taro stood on the balcony beside Yamato, watching the glittering lights. His chest was tight with conflict. He was just a boy, yet he was now caught between titans, corporate empires, hidden enemies, and promises of wealth or ruin. The city looked beautiful below, but Taro felt the shadows closing in around him. Somewhere out there, forces were moving against Yamato. And now, they had marked him too. As the fireworks faded, Yamato leaned down and whispered, "Taro, soon you will face a choice far greater than the one you made in that lobby. When that time comes, choose wisely. Because one mistake will destroy us both." And in that moment, Taro realized the story was no longer about saving a billionaire. It was about survival. Tokyo shimmered at night, alive with neon signs, glowing billboards, and the endless hum of people rushing through the city that never truly slept. But high above the streets, in a skyscraper office cloaked in glass and steel, the air was heavy with silence. 15-year-old Taro Ishikawa sat at a massive oak desk, his eyes fixed on a stack of documents Yamato's assistant had delivered to him. Lines of legal text swam before his eyes, complicated language meant to confuse even the sharpest minds. Yet, for Taro, the words were like a puzzle, and piece by piece, he was fitting them together. His pencil scratched quickly across his notebook. Clause after clause, traps hidden inside promises. If Yamato had signed, millions would have slipped quietly into the hands of unseen rivals. But tonight, something felt different. The more Taro read, the stronger his unease grew. These clauses weren't just financial tricks. They hinted at something bigger: alliances between corporations, foreign investors, even politicians. Someone wasn't simply trying to steal money. They were trying to dismantle Yamato's empire from within. He leaned back, his heart pounding. He was no longer just protecting a billionaire. He was uncovering a war. The door opened, and Kenji Yamato strode in, his presence filling the room like thunder. His silver hair glinted under the lights, his eyes sharp and restless. "Well?" he asked, tossing his jacket onto a chair. Taro hesitated, then pushed the marked-up papers forward. "Sir, this isn't just about money. Look here." He pointed at a series of hidden clauses. "They're tying financial obligations to offshore accounts, political donations. It's not random. Someone is building a network. A silent takeover." Yamato scanned the notes, his face growing darker with every line. Finally, he slammed the papers shut. "So? It is worse than I thought." He turned to the window, gazing out at the city lights. "You've uncovered a conspiracy, Taro. And now, they know you can see it. Which means you are in danger." Taro's stomach tightened. "But, why me? I'm just a student." Yamato's eyes flicked back to him. "Because sometimes, a boy who pays attention can see what men blinded by greed cannot. That makes you their greatest threat." The next day, Taro felt the weight of that warning. As he walked home from school, he noticed shadows trailing him, men in dark coats, lingering too long at corners, following a few steps too close. His palms grew sweaty, his pace quickened. When he turned suddenly, the men melted into the crowd, pretending to be ordinary passers-by. That night, as he entered the apartment, his father was waiting, worry etched deep into his face. "Taro, men came today. They asked about you. Who you spend time with. What documents you've seen." Taro froze. "What did you tell them?" "Nothing," his father said firmly. "But listen to me. This world you've stepped into, it's dangerous. You need to walk away before it's too late." Taro lowered his head, torn. Part of him wanted to run, to hide, to go back to being just a student. But deep inside, something stronger burned. He had uncovered the truth. If he turned away now, what would happen? Would Yamato fall? Would the empire collapse into the hands of those faceless enemies? And worse, would they come after his family anyway? 2 nights later, Yamato summoned him to a private dinner in his penthouse. The apartment was unlike anything Taro had ever seen: polished marble floors, walls covered in priceless art, windows that opened to a breathtaking view of the Tokyo skyline. Yet despite the luxury, the atmosphere was tense. Yamato poured 2 glasses of water and sat across from him. "Taro, I have enemies on my board. They want me out. And now they know you are watching me. They will try to bribe you, frighten you, perhaps even silence you." Taro swallowed hard. "They already tried. At the gala. A man offered me money to betray you." Yamato's eyes narrowed. "And you refused?" "Yes." A slow smile touched Yamato's lips. "Good. That is why I trust you. But trust comes at a cost. From this point on, Taro, you must choose. Do you remain a boy in the shadows, or do you step fully into my world?" The boy's voice trembled. And if I step in? Then you will see the truth behind power. But you will never escape it again. That night, Yamato gave Taro his first true test. A rival corporation, Shinrai Global, was preparing a merger with Yamato Holdings. On the surface, it looked like a partnership. But Yamato suspected betrayal. He placed a sealed folder on the table and pushed it toward Taro. Inside are the terms of the deal, Yamato said. I want you to find what my lawyers could not. Tonight. Taro opened the folder with trembling hands. His eyes darted over the fine print, scanning every word, every line. Hours passed. The clock ticked past midnight, but Taro did not stop. And then, he saw it. A clause buried deep, written in language so deceptive that it looked harmless at first glance. But to someone who knew how to look, it was deadly. His heart raced as he circled it with his pencil. If Yamato signed, Shinrai Global would gain controlling rights to Yamato's overseas assets. Slowly, piece by piece, they could strip him of power. Taro looked up, his voice shaking with urgency. Sir, here. This clause, it gives them control. They're not merging with you. They're taking you over. Yamato's eyes flashed with fire as he leaned in. He read the page carefully, then slammed it shut with a growl. So it is true. Treachery. He stood, fists clenched, his voice low and dangerous. You have saved me again, Taro. But this means war. They will not stop until I am destroyed. From that moment, the pace of Taro's life accelerated. He was no longer a quiet student with a notebook. He was a player in a dangerous game of power. Every day after school, he was whisked away in black cars, ushered into boardrooms, handed documents dripping with hidden traps. He saw the masks of politicians, the greed of executives, the quiet desperation of men who would do anything to rise. But with every discovery he made, the enemies grew more desperate too. One evening, while walking home, Taro found a note slipped into his backpack. It was handwritten, the words stark and chilling. Leave Yamato. Or you and your father will pay. Taro's hands shook as he showed the note to Yamato the next day. The billionaire's face hardened. They are afraid of you, Taro. That is good. But fear makes men dangerous. You must be stronger. But what about my father? Taro whispered. Yamato's eyes narrowed. Then perhaps your father should not remain where they can reach him. Taro blinked. What do you mean? Yamato's voice was cold. I can protect him. Move him. But only if you remain loyal. If you walk away now, he is exposed. Taro's heart twisted. He was trapped. The pressure mounted until one rainy evening when Taro returned home to find his father gone. The apartment door was open, the lights still on, a single umbrella dropped carelessly on the floor. Panic surged through his chest as he called out, but there was no answer. His phone buzzed. A message appeared on the screen. Now you understand. Come to the harbor tonight if you want to see him again. Taro's knees buckled. His father had been taken. The shadows that had followed him, the warnings, the threats, it had all led to this moment. He sat frozen, rain pouring outside, tears blurring his vision. He was just a boy, yet now the life of the only family he had left rested on his shoulders. If he went to the harbor, he might walk into a trap. If he didn't, he would lose his father forever. The rain fell in relentless sheets, turning the streets of Tokyo into rivers of shimmering neon. Taro Ishikawa ran through the storm, his school uniform soaked, his breath ragged. The message on his phone burned in his mind. Come to the harbor tonight if you want to see him again. His father, his only family, had been taken. The boy's shoes slapped against the pavement as he pushed forward, lightning flashing above the skyline. He knew it was a trap. He knew the people behind this were ruthless men who wanted him silenced. But what choice did he have? His heart pounded with fear, yet beneath it was a fierce determination. He might have been just a 15-year-old boy, but he had saved Kenji Yamato from ruin. And now he had to save his father. The harbor was dark, the air thick with salt and smoke. Cargo ships loomed like sleeping giants, their hulls groaning against the waves. Cranes stood tall, skeletal shadows against the stormy sky. Only a handful of lights flickered in the distance, barely piercing the darkness. Taro's footsteps echoed across the wet concrete as he approached the appointed spot, an abandoned warehouse at the edge of the docks. Its rusted doors creaked in the wind, and broken windows glared like hollow eyes. His phone buzzed again. A new message. Inside. Taro's hand trembled as he pushed the heavy door open. The warehouse swallowed him whole, the air damp and metallic. Somewhere in the shadows, water dripped steadily, echoing through the cavernous space. And then, he heard it. A muffled cry. "Father!" Taro's voice cracked as he ran forward. His father sat tied to a chair under a single dangling light bulb. His face was bruised, his eyes filled with both pain and fear. "Taro! No, don't!" Before Taro could reach him, figures emerged from the darkness. Men in suits, their faces hard, their eyes glinting. And at their center stood the man in the gray suit, the same one who had approached Taro at the gala. He smiled coldly. "Welcome, boy. I was hoping you'd be smart enough to come." Taro's chest heaved. "Let him go." The man chuckled. "So brave. Just like Yamato. Always demanding, always believing you have the upper hand. But tell me, Taro, do you truly think you can win against us?" "You want me," Taro spat. "Not him. Take me instead." The man's smile widened. "Oh, we will take you. But first, you will understand why. You think you saved Yamato from a hidden clause? No, boy. You ruined years of planning. Do you know how long it took to build that contract? To bury those traps? And you, with your sharp little eyes, you tore it apart in seconds." His voice grew sharper, darker. "That makes you dangerous. Too dangerous to live free." Taro's fists clenched, but his father's voice broke through the storm in his head. "Taro, run. Forget me. Just go." Taro shook his head fiercely. "I'm not leaving you." The man in gray stepped closer, his eyes narrowing. "You could be useful to us, you know. Work for us. Help us dismantle Yamato piece by piece. We would pay you, protect you. Your father would be safe." The offer hung in the air like poison. Taro felt the pull of temptation, the promise of safety, of money, of ending this nightmare. But deep inside, he remembered Yamato's warning at the gala, "If you betray me, there will be nowhere in this world to hide." And he remembered his father's words, "Always look for the hidden things." He stared at the man and whispered, "No." The smile vanished. The man's face hardened. "Then you have chosen your fate." He snapped his fingers. The guards stepped forward, pulling pistols from their coats. Taro's breath caught in his throat. He braced himself when suddenly, the warehouse doors exploded open. Floodlights blazed through the darkness. Dozens of black-clad men stormed in, weapons raised, their boots thundering against the concrete. At the front walked Kenji Yamato, calm and commanding, as though he had orchestrated the storm itself. His voice cut through the chaos. "Release the boy." The men in gray staggered back, startled. Guns aimed at Yamato's men, but the billionaire didn't flinch. His silver hair glowed under the harsh lights, his eyes burning with cold fury. "Did you truly think I would let you take what is mine?" Yamato's voice thundered. "The boy is under my protection. Touch him, and I will bury every one of you." The man in gray sneered. "You're late, Yamato. The boy already chose." He looked at Taro. Tell him you agreed to work for us." Taro's voice shook, but it was steady. "I said no." For the first time, the man in gray's mask of calm cracked. He snarled, "Foolish child." In a blur, Yamato's guards surged forward. The warehouse erupted into chaos, shouts, gunfire, the crash of crates splintering. Taro ducked, shielding his father as bullets ricocheted. Smoke filled the air, the acrid sting burning his eyes. Through the haze, he saw Yamato himself moving with ruthless precision. He wasn't just a businessman, he was a warrior, striking down his enemies with calculated ferocity. Within minutes, it was over. The men in gray lay subdued, their weapons scattered across the floor. The leader was dragged forward, his face twisted with rage. Yamato stood over him. "You dared to touch what is mine. For that, there is no forgiveness." The man spat blood, glaring up. "This isn't over. Others are coming. Bigger than me. Bigger than you. The boy cannot save you forever." Yamato's expression didn't change. He gave a single nod, and his guards dragged the man away into the night. When the dust settled, Taro rushed to his father, cutting the ropes with trembling hands. Tears blurred his vision as he hugged him tightly. "Father, I'm sorry, I should never have." His father pulled him close, his voice shaking. "No, Taro. You were brave. Too brave. But this life, it will destroy you." Yamato stepped forward, his presence filling the room. "No," he said firmly. "This life will shape him." He looked at Taro with something almost like pride. "You refused the bribe. You chose loyalty. That is rare." Taro stared back, torn between fear and awe. "Why did you save us?" Yamato's eyes softened, just slightly. "Because you saved me first." The drive back to the city was silent. Taro sat beside his father in the sleek black car, watching raindrops race down the windows. Across from him, Yamato spoke quietly into his phone, giving orders, arranging movements, tightening control. But Taro's mind was elsewhere, on the man's last words. "Others are coming. Bigger than me. Bigger than you." The thought gnawed at him. Who were these others? What kind of power could make even Kenji Yamato vulnerable? As the car sped through the glowing streets of Tokyo, Taro realized something chilling. He wasn't just caught in a war between businessmen. He was standing at the edge of something far larger, something that could swallow not only Yamato, but the entire empire he ruled. And now, whether he wanted it or not, Taro was part of it. Back at his small apartment, Yamato's men installed security around the building. His father sat silently, staring at the floor, shaken and weary. "Taro," his father whispered, gripping his hand. "Please. Leave this world. Let Yamato fight his battles without you. I cannot lose you." Taro's heart ached. He wanted to promise, to walk away, to return to the life of a normal boy. But deep down, he knew the truth. There was no way back. Not anymore. He squeezed his father's hand. "I'll protect you. No matter what." That night, as Tokyo slept, Taro's phone buzzed again. A single message, no sender. "You think tonight was the end?" It was only the beginning. Taro's blood ran cold as he stared at the glowing screen. Somewhere out there, in the shadows, enemies far greater than the man in gray were already watching him. And soon, they would come. The city glittered under the night sky, skyscrapers gleaming like blades of glass. From his bedroom window, Taro Ishikawa watched the lights flicker across Tokyo, but he couldn't feel their beauty. The glowing skyline looked to him like a battlefield, every tower hiding enemies, every street a trap waiting to spring. His phone lay on the desk, the message still burning in his mind. "You think tonight was the end?" It was only the beginning. He hadn't shown it to his father. The man was still shaken from the kidnapping, barely able to eat, haunted by the image of those gunmen in the warehouse. Taro didn't want to add more fear to his father's already broken heart. But in his own chest, fear grew like fire. Who were these people? And why were they after him, a boy who had only seen what others missed? The next morning, Yamato's car came for him. The billionaire had summoned Taro to his glass tower in Shibuya, where rain-washed windows overlooked the bustling city below. Yamato stood by the window when Taro entered, his hands clasped behind his back. His silver hair glinted like steel in the morning light. "You didn't sleep," Yamato said, not turning around. Taro flinched. How do you know?" Yamato finally looked at him, his eyes sharp. Because neither did I. He gestured to a chair. Sit. Taro obeyed, his small frame dwarfed by the luxurious leather seat. There is something you must know, Yamato began. His voice was calm, but beneath it lay something darker. The man you saw last night, the one in gray, was only a pawn. His masters are far more dangerous. Taro swallowed. Who are they? Yamato's gaze hardened. The Kuragain Group. The name alone sent a chill crawling down Taro's spine. He had heard whispers of them in the news, a shadow syndicate, older than Yamato's empire, with roots buried deep in politics, finance, and crime. They were the kind of people who never appeared in public, who pulled strings from the dark and smiled while others bled. They've been waiting for my downfall, Yamato said. And when you tore apart their hidden claws, you made yourself their enemy. Taro's hands tightened in his lap. So, they'll keep coming? They already are, Yamato replied grimly. Later that day, Yamato assigned Taro a personal bodyguard, a tall, scarred man named Daichi, who rarely spoke but whose eyes never stopped scanning the world around them. He followed Taro everywhere, school, home, even the bookstore where Taro usually went to escape. But instead of feeling safe, Taro felt trapped. He was only 15, yet his life had become one of surveillance cameras, black cars, and whispered warnings. His classmates whispered about him too, noticing the men in black waiting outside the school gates. And then it happened. One afternoon, as Taro packed his books into his bag, he noticed his best friend Hiro avoiding his eyes. Hiro had been his companion since childhood, the one who laughed at his jokes, who walked home with him every day. But lately, Hiro had grown distant. Hiro, Taro said, trying to smile. Want to stop by the arcade tonight? Hiro hesitated, then muttered, I can't. I've got things to do. Before Taro could reply, Hiro grabbed his bag and hurried out of the classroom. Something inside Taro twisted. His best friend was hiding something. That night, Taro followed Hiro. He knew it was wrong, but the unease in his chest refused to fade. Slipping out after dinner, he trailed Hiro through the crowded streets of Shibuya, weaving between umbrellas and neon signs. Finally, Hiro ducked into a narrow alley. Taro pressed himself against a wall, peering around the corner. And what he saw made his blood run cold. Hiro stood with two men in suits, men who looked far too much like the ones from the warehouse. One of them handed Hiro an envelope. Hiro accepted it, his hands shaking. Taro's heart pounded. His best friend was working with them. He stumbled back, his foot kicking a loose can. The clang echoed in the alley. Hiro's head snapped up. Their eyes met. Taro? Panic surged through Taro. He turned and ran, his heart racing as Hiro's voice called after him. Back home, Taro locked his door and buried his face in his hands. His chest hurt, his throat burned. How could Hiro, his brother in all but blood, betray him? He didn't tell his father. He didn't even tell Daichi, who sat silently outside the apartment like a stone statue. The pain was too raw, too personal. But the next day, Hiro came to him. Taro, Hiro whispered at school, his face pale. Please. I can explain. Taro glared at him, anger and heartbreak swirling inside. Explain what? That you're selling me to them? That you've become their spy? Hiro's lips trembled. They threatened my family. My little sister, Taro. I didn't have a choice. The words hit Taro like a blade. He wanted to scream, to hate Hiro, but instead, he just stood there, silent, trembling. They said if I don't give them information about you, they'll hurt her, Hiro whispered, tears in his eyes. I swear, I never wanted this. I never wanted to hurt you. Taro's heart ached. He wanted to believe him. But could he? That evening, Yamato summoned Taro again. His office was dark, lit only by the city's glow. He studied Taro with sharp eyes. You've discovered something, haven't you? Yamato asked. Taro hesitated. The memory of Hiro's tearful face weighed on him. Should he tell Yamato? If he did, Hiro might be crushed under the weight of Yamato's wrath. If he didn't, the Kurogane group might learn more about him than ever. Taro, Yamato said quietly. If you hide the truth from me, it will cost lives. Taro's fists clenched. He opened his mouth to speak when suddenly, the lights in the skyscraper flickered. Then went dark. The office plunged into silence. Only the red glow of the emergency lights remained. Yamato's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, his jaw tightening. Then he looked at Taro. They've found us. In the next moment, an explosion ripped through the lower floors of the building. The glass windows shuddered, alarms wailed, smoke curling up into the sky. Yamato's guards scrambled, shouting orders, rushing to seal the exits. Daichi burst into the room, his gun drawn. Boss! They're here! Through the broken windows, Taro saw black vans pulling up around the tower. Men in masks poured out, armed and ruthless. The Kurogane group had come, not with contracts and threats, but with fire and steel. Yamato placed a hand on Taro's shoulder, his voice low but steady. Listen to me, boy. Tonight, you will see the truth. And after tonight, nothing in your life will ever be the same. The skyscraper shook as another blast echoed. Smoke filled the air. Guards raised their weapons, ready to fight. And in the middle of it all, Taro realized one terrifying truth. The war wasn't just at the harbor. It wasn't just in the shadows. It was here, now, burning its way into the heart of Tokyo. The skyscraper shook again as another explosion rattled its foundations. Fire alarms screamed, red lights flashing against steel walls. Smoke rolled through the halls, choking and bitter. From Yamato's top-floor office, Taro could see flames licking up from the lower levels. Men in masks stormed the lobby below. Yamato's guards fought fiercely, but the Kurogane group's strike force was endless, well-trained, ruthless, prepared to destroy everything in their path. Taro's chest tightened as he clutched the desk, watching chaos unfold below. He was just a boy. He didn't belong here, in a war of billionaires and criminals. But he couldn't run. His father was counting on him. Yamato had trusted him. And somewhere in that firestorm, his best friend Hiro was tangled in the enemy's web. Yamato's voice cut through the noise. Calm, commanding, like steel forged in fire. Daichi, take the boy to the safe corridor. No! Taro shouted, his voice cracking. I'm not leaving. I can help. Yamato turned to him, his eyes sharp, his face illuminated by the glow of fire outside. You already helped. More than you know. But now. He stopped. A sound pierced the air. The whine of a drill cutting into metal. The office door buckled, sparks flying as masked men forced their way inside. The gunfight was deafening. Daichi moved like a shadow, his pistol barking in short, brutal bursts. Yamato grabbed a rifle from a fallen guard, his silver hair gleaming under the emergency lights. Taro crouched behind the desk, heart pounding as bullets chewed through glass and steel. He squeezed his eyes shut, praying it would end, when suddenly, a voice cut through the chaos. Taro. He looked up. Standing among the masked intruders was Hiro. His face was pale, his eyes wide, but he wasn't wearing a mask. He was holding his hands up as if caught between two worlds. Taro, come with me. Hiro shouted over the noise. Please. If you come, they'll stop this. No one else has to die. Taro froze. His best friend, his betrayer, his brother in all but blood, standing there, offering him a way out. Daichi snarled, firing another round. He's with them. But Hiro's voice cracked with desperation. No. I didn't choose this. They forced me. If you come, they'll let your father live. Please, Taro. The boy's heart twisted. Could he trust him? Or was this the final trap? Smoke burned Taro's lungs as he scrambled to his feet. Stop shooting, he cried. He's my friend. Yamato's sharp voice cut him like a blade. There are no friends in war, boy. Only enemies and survivors. But Taro shook his head. No. You're wrong. Sometimes there's something else. For a moment, the battle seemed to pause. The masked men waited, weapons raised, as if curious how the boy would choose. Hiro's trembling hand reached toward him. And Taro, heart pounding, tears stinging his eyes, stepped out from behind the desk. Time slowed. He could hear every breath, every drop of rain against the broken windows, every crackle of fire below. He walked toward Hiro, his footsteps echoing on the steel floor. Yamato's voice thundered behind him. If you go, Taro, you will die. But Taro didn't stop. He reached Hiro, staring into his friend's terrified eyes. If you're lying to me, Hiro, this is the end. Hiro swallowed hard. I swear, I'm not. The leader of the masked men stepped forward. A tall figure in a black coat, his voice low and cruel. Bring him. The boss wants the boy alive. Hiro grabbed Taro's wrist. For a second, Taro thought he saw regret in his eyes. Then the world exploded again. Daichi roared as he opened fire, cutting down the masked men in a hail of bullets. Yamato surged forward like a storm, his rifle blazing. The leader cursed, dragging Hiro back with him. Taro screamed, reaching for his friend, but Hiro shoved him away with a desperate cry. Run, Taro. Please run. The boy stumbled back into Daichi's arms. The scarred bodyguard pulled him toward a side door as Yamato covered their retreat. Explosions rocked the tower. The enemy poured in from every side, relentless. The safe corridor was barely holding. Daichi shoved Taro ahead, his voice hoarse. Move. Don't look back. But Taro did look back, just in time to see Yamato struck. A bullet tore into the billionaire's shoulder, spinning him to the floor. Yamato! Taro cried. The older man raised his head, blood on his lips. And still, he smiled. Go, boy. Go. Remember, loyalty is the only clause they can't take. The doors slammed shut, cutting him from view. Taro ran. His legs burned, his lungs screamed, but he kept running through smoke-filled halls, Daichi at his side. The building groaned, the air filled with the roar of collapsing steel. At last, they burst into the night air. Rain poured down, hissing against flames that clawed up the skyscraper. Sirens wailed, fire trucks screaming toward the inferno. Taro collapsed to his knees, gasping, staring up at Yamato's tower burning against the storm. And in that fire, he saw everything. The cruelty of power. The price of betrayal. The cost of loyalty. His father ran to him, pulling him into a desperate embrace. Taro. You're alive, thank God, you're alive. But Taro didn't feel alive. He felt broken. He had lost Hiro. He had lost Yamato. And yet, Yamato's words still echoed in his mind. Loyalty is the only clause they can't take. Weeks passed. The city repaired itself, but whispers of the Kuragain group spread through every street. Some said Yamato had died in the flames. Others swore he had survived, recovering in secret, plotting his revenge. No one knew the truth. As for Taro, he returned to school. To a life that felt the same but could never be the same. Hiro was gone, vanished into the shadows. His desk in class sat empty, a ghost haunting Taro every day. But inside, Taro had changed. He still carried his notebooks, still wrote in the margins, still searched for hidden clauses in everything he read. But now, he looked deeper, not just at contracts, but at people. At their choices. At their hearts. One evening, as the sun set over Tokyo, Taro sat with his father on the balcony of their small apartment. The city glowed gold, alive with movement. Father, Taro said softly. Do you think Yamato was right? That loyalty is the most important thing? His father was silent for a long time. Then he nodded. Yes. But loyalty is not blind obedience. It is choosing to stand for what is right, even when it costs you everything. Taro looked at the horizon, his young face hardened by all he had seen. "Then that's what I'll do. No matter what comes." His father placed a hand on his shoulder. "You've already done more than most men will in their whole lives. You've seen the truth. And truth, my son, is the sharpest weapon of all." But as the night deepened, as Tokyo's lights twinkled like stars below, Taro's phone buzzed once again. A new message. No name. Just 5 words. "The game is not over." Taro's hands trembled. Somewhere out there, Hiro was alive. Somewhere out there, the Kurigane group was still watching. And deep down, Taro knew this was not the end. It was only the beginning of a war he had never asked for but could no longer escape. He closed his eyes, his heart steady now. He was no longer just a boy who found a hidden clause. He was the one writing the new one. Power can build empires, but only loyalty and truth can save lives. Even in a world of betrayal and greed, the courage of one honest heart can change the fate of many.